Good evening, Barbadians. Good evening to those in Dominica. Good evening to whoever is listening to us via this stream. On our screen, you should have just seen the RSS plane land in Dominica. I would have seen it take off from the Grantley Adams International Airport and on its way with 6 boxes of vaccines to the people of the Commonwealth of Dominica and to my brother, Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt. And we will have him joining me later on in this press briefing. But I just want to be able to give this briefing context because what you see with the RSS plane is in fact the shipment of vaccines that would have come in from the government and people of India in thanking, with the thanks of Prime Minister Modi for ensuring that the people of the Commonwealth of Dominica and Barbados would have received vaccines. Fellow Barbadians, I'm sure that you would have heard us talk about it over the course of the last week or so, but I'm pleased tonight to be able to confirm that the government and people of Barbados took possession just under an hour ago of 9 boxes of vaccines, 100,000 doses of vaccines for 50,000 persons of the vaccine, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, to aid in our battle with COVID-19. I believe the official name is Covishield. These are parts of the first batch of a potential 200,000 doses for Barbados. We are asking and hoping that we can purchase the remaining 100,000 from the government and people of India. And of course, the 70,000 doses which you see will come off the plane in Dominica very shortly are for the people of Dominica. And they too would expect, hopefully, that they too can get a second batch in a few weeks or 6 to 8 weeks if possible. We are still in the negotiations for that second batch, but we really want at this stage to say thank you to the people and government of India. Truly, this has been a very special moment for our people. And I really want to thank Prime Minister Modi for his quick, decisive, and magnanimous action in allowing us to be the beneficiary of these vaccines which they have given us for our people, and indeed in sending it in the shortest possible time to aid in our fight. We believe that this is a special moment, and for us who have gone through what it is to live in COVID, I know that you would want us to say thank you. Let me say out front that the Prime Minister Skerritt and myself have worked very closely on this, and I really want to thank him because he also, given the length of tenure that he has had in office, has been able to work closely with me to ensure that we were able to benefit from this. But as we benefit, we've also agreed that members of the OECS and indeed in Barbados's case, Trinidad and Guyana, who have helped us over the course of the last year, believe you me, nobody has gone through this without seeking assistance. And therefore, both of us have agreed that some of the vaccines which we have received will go to our brothers and sisters in those territories within the OECS, with Dominica taking care of some, Barbados doing some, and Trinidad and Guyana as a result of the work that has been done closely with our people in Barbados. We all know that Indian-produced and manufactured medicines are not new to us in Barbados. Indeed, many of the most common drugs used by Barbadians and medicines used by Barbadians for a plethora of ailments and illnesses are manufactured. The drugs are manufactured in India. And therefore, this is a relationship that we have had for a very long time. India has indeed distinguished itself as one of the world's most accomplished pharmaceutical industries, manufacturers rather, and it has served millions and hundreds of millions of people across the developing world and the developed world as well. Our confidence in the skill, the science, and the standards of the manufacturers in India is unshakable, given our relationship of using their products for considerable periods of time. And we all know that our country has friends all over the world, people and states who, in our time of need and darkest hour, come willingly to our assistance. And this is one of these such moments. If there was a time at which we Barbadians needed friends to be here for us, then it is this moment in time. And let me give it context. The government of India became one of the first countries in the world to recognize our nation on the 30th of November 1966. And what may not be known either by Barbadians or Indians 55 years almost later is that the very chair, the very ornate and magnificent chair in which our Speaker sits in our Parliament, which, as you know, is the third oldest Parliament in the Commonwealth, was given to us by the government and people of India. And indeed, in November last year, we received a similar donation of $100,000 from the Indian government through the Honorary Consul here, Dr. Mohini Harris, who will speak to you shortly, as well as a commitment which has now been agreed for $675,000 to purchase additional materials to assist us in the battle against COVID, and that has come from the India-UN Partnership Development Fund. The $100,000 that we received in November was to allow us to buy PPE for the workers in our country to be able to face the battle of COVID. So this is not a singular experience of cooperation between us and the government of people of India. This is a continued set of cooperation. And indeed, when the CARICOM countries met with Prime Minister Modi at the UN General Assembly in New York City in September 2019, we were able to continue to cement that very deep relationship between India and the people of the region. So, with respect to what else we have here, before I come on to the discussion on the vaccines, I'd just like to invite Mrs. Mohini Harris to speak to you for 2 minutes on behalf of the government and people of India. Dr. Harris, as I indicated to you, is in fact the Honorary Consul who is now demitting office for the government of India. Thank you. Dr. Harris.
Good evening, Dr. Harris. I have a message from the High Commissioner, who is based in Suriname, regarding the gift. This is called Maitri, which means friendship. So it's a gesture of friendship and solidarity from government and people of India to the government and people of Barbados. The Covishield vaccine is made in India, vaccine under the auspicious Oxford AstraZeneca. The similar gesture of friendship and solidarity with other countries in the region has been extended, and they will also be receiving the Made in India Covishield vaccine very soon. As you are aware, Prime Minister of India, His Excellency Mr. Narendra Modi, had received the request from Honorable Prime Minister of Barbados and approved 100,000 doses of Covishield, which was delivered today for the use of the people of Barbados. I have great pleasure in thanking the Prime Minister of India for this wonderful gesture of friendship. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harris. May I say, as I move to the speaking to Barbadians now about the vaccines very quickly before I hand over to Prime Minister Skerrit. We have now to recognize that we have reached a momentous moment in our battle against this COVID pandemic. We have been fighting this for just under a year actively, but we have been prepared for it for 13 months with Minister Bostic, who is with me tonight, and I salute him and the medical teams who have kept Barbados afloat over the course of these last 13 months, to say to you that we have turned every stone to get these vaccines here because we want to be able to protect the people of this country, just as we want the world to protect itself by ensuring that we will have as many people vaccinated so that the world can turn the corner on COVID-19. With respect to the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine specifically, we know that we have a highly safe and effective vaccine. These are not my words, but the words of thousands of key scientists and medical experts across the world. It has gone through the most rigorous testing and approval protocols and is currently being safely administered in hundreds of, thousands of people, whether in Europe, Asia, South America, and Africa. We have had some discussions recently, but even with all of the vaccines that exist, we are likely to have a period of time where boosters are going to be required because we are fundamentally in a race against time with respect to variations and mutations of the vaccine. But we do believe that of all the vaccines out there, this is one of the most suitable ones for Barbados and other tropical nations like our own, because the temperatures required for storage are not as rigorous as some of the other vaccines, although we are ensuring that if necessary, we are in a position to also be able to store some of the more rigorous ones that require minus 80 degrees. This one, however, is stored at temperatures that we are accustomed to in our country. We also want to recognize that the discussion as to who should take vaccines or not, we accept that in today's world there are persons who have many queries, and as we heard Sunday evening in the press briefing, many of the people who have queries about the vaccines in Barbados are persons who themselves were the beneficiary of vaccines at a very early stage in their life, such that we do not now have anybody talking generally about measles or mumps or rubella or smallpox or polio or any of the things that hitherto would have affected previous generations of Barbadians and people across the world. So I really hope that over the course of the next few days, as we move to roll out the plan, that will involve clearly the frontline workers, and frontline workers is defined broadly, of course, those medically, those in law enforcement, those who help keep the state together, while at the same time going after the most vulnerable in our population. And I give you the assurance that tomorrow, David Clark, who I've put in charge of the logistics of the vaccine program, as well as Dr. Ferdinand, will be in a position for us to be able to roll out and to speak to you about the logistics with respect to how the vaccines will be delivered over the course of the next few days, 10 days or so. We hope that we'll be in a position, as I said, to continue to procure additional vaccines. But as we do so, we say to Barbadians, start having the discussions in your families and among yourselves. And why? Because you and I both know that this country has one of the highest rates of NCD incidents, chronic non-communicable diseases in the world. And we therefore need to make sure that our people are not put additionally at risk as a result of the NCDs. And we're going to have a conversation about that afterwards, because we need to get healthy. But now it is for us to be able to make sure that persons who take the vaccine, once they can do so safely, in accordance with the recommendations from their doctor, that we can slow down what is actually happening by ensuring that we can minimize the risk of death and minimize the risk of serious hospitalization. All of us know this over and over, and therefore, to that extent, we hope that we are in a position to be able to do so. My friends, as we look at the screen, I see that Prime Minister Skerritt is literally by the plane receiving the vaccines coming off the plane from Dominica, and I will find out how soon he will join us in the press briefing to be able to speak. But in the interim, I just want to say to you that we are lucky, and we need to recognize that there are many people across the world who are asking to be in the position that we are this evening. We do not take it lightly. We do not take it for granted. I'm in this position tonight on behalf of you, the people of Barbados, and I say to you that the conversations that are necessary must take place. For the most part, everyone that I've spoken to has said that while they may have some concerns or persons may want to speak to their doctor, the majority of people are saying they are ready to take the vaccination. I ask also that we recall that there are a few of us who would have taken it earlier, and we will take our second shots in this going down. Minister Bostic, as I said, is with me here. The 5 doctors who would have previously taken the shots, who are on the front line working at the various isolation centers, and of course the Attorney General. In addition to those of us who have taken it, then the rollout, as I said, will be explained by Major Clark and Dr. Ferdinand tomorrow when they speak. Our doctors are going to be placed under a lot of pressure over the course of the next few days, because I have every expectation that average Barbadians are going to be reaching out to their own medical practitioners and for advice. And I ask the doctors and nurses of this country to reach out and to provide that kind and level of advice that we would expect, that would allow people to make sensible decisions for themselves and for their loved ones. As it relates to our ability to continue with Operation Seek and Save, Minister Walcott has indicated to me that we have been doing extremely well. Up until yesterday, we had 29,000 households that had been visited, and they will provide the additional information tomorrow when they speak in the press briefings that will allow Barbadians to know how we are doing with the rollout of those aspects of our program. But to sum up, as I wait for Prime Minister Skerritt to join us, we really do want to thank the government and people of India again. As I said, this has been a solid relationship. We have common values. We have a common legal system. We have a lot of cooperation between our two countries, both in terms of people movement as well as in terms of cooperation at the national level, as I've said. And therefore, Dr. Harris, you will let the ambassador know on our behalf, please, how grateful the people of Barbados truly are for this moment in time. With respect to Minister Bostic, I know that you have been looking forward to this moment in time, and I say to you, to say to our healthcare workers who I had the opportunity to meet with last Friday, and we will meet again, I think this Friday again, that we do this on your behalf because many of you are working too hard and making major sacrifices in terms of wanting to save people in our country. And I say publicly to you, thank you on behalf of the people of Barbados for keeping us afloat over the course of the last 13 months. At this point, I'd like to hand over to Dominica and to invite my brother, Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister Skerritt, to join me in this press conference. I think that we are setting a new norm. This is the first press conference I think we're doing across countries by Zoom using the technology, and we are not even going to let COVID keep us down. So I will hand over now to Dominica for them to bring into the...
Honorable Ken Edwards, the Acting Minister for Health, Wellness and New Health Investments, other honorable members of Cabinet, Permanent Secretaries, Mrs. Henderson from the Office of the Prime Minister, Mrs. Daly, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, other senior officials, staff of the various ministries, members of the media, the listening public, a pleasant good evening to all. Before I proceed with our welcome remarks, since the Honorable Minister has another engagement, I know he has been occupied for the whole day with just ending Cabinet. We're going to allow the Honorable Prime Minister to speak, to give remarks, and then we'll continue to with the rest of the program. Honorable Minister.
Well, thank you, Permanent Secretary. I am, in fact, joining my friend, Prime Minister Mayor Motley, in a joint press conference. So I want, first of all, to recognize Prime Minister Motley and her cabinet colleagues, and of course the wonderful people of Barbados. And I want to here recognize my Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Darrow, and the Acting Minister for Health, Honorable Kent Edwards, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, and also Honorable Riviere and all of us here present. It is written in the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 7, that, and I quote, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. knock, and it will be open to you, end of quote. Now, even though I trust every word of the Bible, I must confess that I did not imagine that the prayers of my country would have been answered so swiftly. Being the leader of a small Caribbean island with a population of 72,000 people, I did not fancy my chances of getting such a swift, positive response to my request of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. One would have thought and understood that in a global pandemic such as this, a nation's size and might would have been the primary considerations. But it is to the credit of Prime Minister Modi that our request was considered on merit and the equality of our people was recognized. I'd like to take this opportunity once again to express my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to Prime Minister Modi, his government, and the citizens of India. I want to recognize the scientists and all those who were responsible for the tireless research and trials that went into manufacturing this formula for resistance. I had the good fortune of visiting India in February of 2016, and my direct interaction with scores of Indian nationals back then helps to explain their generosity of spirit and selflessness at this time in assisting the wider world with the management and hopeful elimination of the dreaded pandemic. The people of India are to be applauded for so graciously supporting the efforts of their government to assist developing countries in particular with access to the desperately needed vaccine. The highly hailed Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine that we have taken possession of this evening ensures that Dominica will launch the largest vaccination campaign in modern history in our country. I am pleased to announce that the vaccine will tonight be placed in the custody of the central medical stores. And from tomorrow, we will proceed to advance our public awareness campaign to include the registration of persons interested in receiving vaccines. I have been advised by the Ministry of Health that we will start the vaccination exercise on February 22nd, 2021. And we will ensure, as been advised by the Ministry of Health, that the frontline workers will be the first to receive the vaccines, and also our senior citizens who are at risk, and members of Cabinet and Parliament. I have been assured by the Ministry of Health that all systems have been put in place to ensure that recipients of the vaccine will be diligently monitored throughout their vaccination process. The latest research from the Oxford University reports that the protection provided by the first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine kicks in after 3 weeks and lasts right the way through to the second dose at the 3-month mark. Guided by the results of the latest studies, this vaccine will reduce the likelihood of transmission to others. This means that Dominica, as a country, will soon be empowered to achieve a crucial objective, which is to further minimize and eventually stamp out the impact of the various strains of COVID-19. As I said last week, the vaccine will not be mandatory, but I would encourage all citizens to consider the danger of passing up such an opportunity as this to safeguard the health of yourself and loved ones. I am happy that our brothers and sisters in Barbados have also succeeded in their efforts to procure that country's own batch of the vaccine for the benefit of all Barbadians. Tonight signifies the start of the fight back by the Caribbean islands against the virus that has threatened the livelihood of every CARICOM national. The journey ahead may be a long one, but I am certain that once we stay focused, keep our guards up, and protect ourselves with this vaccine, we will rise again in our beautiful Caribbean region. And just to say to my dear brothers and sisters in Dominica, that in the spirit of our usual togetherness and brotherly love, Dominica will be sharing with a couple member states of the OECS from this gift which we received from India. And so arrangements will be made to have some of the vaccines airlifted as early as Thursday to some of our brothers and sisters so that their frontline workers can be vaccinated in our effort to stamping out this dreaded virus. And I want to commend the efforts of the Prime Minister of Barbados for ensuring that the people of Barbados could also receive, as I said, these vaccines. But words cannot express our profound gratitude to the government of India, and indeed the Prime Minister of India, for this most generous gift. And certainly history will record that contribution, and generations to come shall remember the contribution of the people of India and the Prime Minister of India. So I wish our countries well. I wish our region well. It's important that all of us, every one of us, continue to adhere to the protocols as we work together to stamp out this dreaded virus. May God bless our efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother, Prime Minister Skerritt. And I'd like to repeat at this point my gratitude. I'd like to repeat my gratitude to the government and people of India, as I said. As I reflected on it, it wasn't only the Speaker's chair that was given to us on independence, but it is also the cabinet table in our cabinet room that was also given to us by the government and people of India. So in a very real sense, the contribution of the people of India towards Barbados' stability and democracy has been consistent over this 55 years that we will celebrate in November of this year. I also want at this stage, therefore, to end by saying, Barbadians, we can only beat this virus if we have enough people willing to be vaccinated in order to create the herd immunity in the population. I cannot tell you that I've received all the vaccinations that we need yet, but I can promise you that every day and every night we are going to work hard to get as many vaccines necessary to protect our people. But that's just one part of the equation. The second part is you. And I ask each of you tonight to start the conversations in your families, with your friends, with your work colleagues, and to begin to recognize that a lot of the fake news and a lot of the conspiracy theories are designed to be able to undermine this effort. But we can overcome that because 85–90% of us can bear our arms and show the signs of the vaccines that have caused us not to lose friends or family to polio, to smallpox, to measles, to mumps, to rubella, and to so many other things that over the course we take for granted in the last few decades because of the existence of vaccines. Is there a risk in life? There's a risk with everything. There's a risk to talk. There's a risk to cross the road. There's a risk to do everything. But in life as human beings, we manage risk. And I ask Barbadians, therefore, to start that conversation from tonight. There is a study that will also be shared that shows that there are legitimate concerns and questions, and the public education program will be rolled out while we start to deal with some of the frontline workers. And I hope that ultimately Barbados and Dominica and the Caribbean can be an example to the rest of the world about how you cooperate, and even when you have a little, how you share and how you work together. Because we know that the only thing missing in the world today, all of us have had lockdowns, all of us have had to shut down. But the one thing that's missing, all of us have had to do restrictions. The one thing that's missing is global coordination in the things that we do to shut down or to coordinate how we treat the virus and how we distribute vaccines. If we can do that, and that's why the gift of the government and people of India is so significant today, because they understand that simply giving their population vaccines will not solve the world's problem in fighting this pandemic. And I say so conscious that I carry responsibility as chair, as I told you, for the slow motion pandemic, which is in fact the one that we have, our young people have to be wary of, because if we don't deal with that, we are going to see more and more instability globally as we go forward. So my friends, good night. Your government will fight and claw every day to ensure that we can have enough vaccines. But until such time, this first batch for 50,000 people, minus the few that we're going to have to deal with, is there to start. And Major Clark and Dr. Ferdinand will give you details of that rollout program. We expect it to start literally within days for our frontline workers, and they will give you all of the details tomorrow to ensure that people can be ready. But the plan is to literally start before this weekend. Thank you very much, and God bless this country. God bless the people in government of India. God bless the people in government of the Caribbean, and in particular my brother Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister and people of Dominica, for joining us in this momentous press briefing tonight to show that we hopefully, Jeffrey, in your words, there shall be no retreat, no surrender. And with God on our side, our people shall have no doubts or fears, and we shall move inspired and exulting free. Thank you very much. Good night.